Wow.
recording and we're doing all the tech. It's a good day when all the tech works. I just love that yellow background, Nancy. And the way it contrasts, so good. All right, so before I get to what I think is the best part of my week, which is always spotlighting somebody amazing, and I'm so glad you're here, I am going to do my thing, play on my playground for a few minutes, and talk about a digital marketing tip. Every week I give a digital marketing tip, and for the past few weeks, I have been talking about email subject lines. You guys know that I think probably people are feeling similar to I am right now. Like Facebook, social, Instagram, it's hard to rise above noise, right? It's noisy out there. And once you go in there, I feel like you enter into social media platforms and you're just like stuck in this vortex. And until you like climb your way out, you're like, what just happened? Like, I don't even know. Did something just happen? And although I am not minimizing the importance of social media in the work that you do, it is important, and there's ways to be strategic and to save your time and your energy going in there. And I would love to talk to you about those things. I'm really focused these days on nurturing relationships, having conversations. If you can do it one-to-one, fantastic. But really, if you're going to try to get beyond word of mouth and to reach people who are already looking for you and start the conversation, start bringing them closer to the value that you're bringing, email marketing, I mean, you've seen the numbers, it has over a 30% return on investment. So if you're doing email marketing and you've decided, yes, I've got to do this, and you're doing all the right things, you're personalizing, you're creating conversations, you're giving value, you're not being selly, you're giving some parts of yourself, but nobody's opening it because of your subject line, that's a problem. So I've been focusing the past few weeks on subject line. So today, we talked about emojis, we talked about personalizing. I don't know if we've talked about power words yet. I'm going to talk about that next time. This time I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and let me do this. Talk about what not to do. I might have talked about this a little bit before, but there are some really common triggers for spam filters. So you want to make sure you're building your list the right way and not really spamming people. I just had something this week that somebody called me to try to figure out why they had been shut down. You never want people to mark your email as spam, because it's not just that one person. It could be an entire server or ISP that once you get marked as spam, anybody on that ISP would also not be able to see your emails. So let's talk about avoiding some of the things that can trigger your email that would land in a spam filter. One of the things to do is take a look at your own spam or junk or other folder, and take a look just at the subject lines that are in there and try to figure out if you can see why those things are going in there. There's some real spam in there, but you'll also notice that there's some that's not. It's from real senders that you might have actually signed up for. So some common triggers, words like free or guarantee, certainly spam, writing in all uppercase, and excessive punctuation. That's a good way to get stuck into a spam folder. Here's one I might have talked about before. Along those same lines, real spammers really do use kind of a lot of dirty words sometimes, and that means that spam filters have evolved to have dirty minds and look for words within words, even phrases that might be misconstrued. So this is an example that somebody on the Constant Contact Partners shared that was picked up by spam. This HVAC company sent an email for a client and noticed that its email was being blocked by a large majority of the inboxes. And it had that subject line: want your HVAC system to last longer, regular maintenance is key. Well, that seems fairly innocent, but it was picked up as spam. And what it was clearly the last longer. You can see that right there. So what they had to do was resend the email with a new subject line, and then they got way more deliverability. This time the subject they used was regular maintenance is the key to a healthy system. Every spam filter is different. So if you are seeing some issues, you want to get in touch with whoever it is. If you're using Constant Contact, Active Campaign, MailChimp, you can work with their staff or with me if I work with you or whatever, to help you figure out what the issue is. Take a look at your bounces. Take a look at what your spam are. If you are getting a really high spam rate, you could actually get shut off. All right, so that is my tip of the week. I didn't see that originally. I hadn't seen that coming with the squirrel thing. I'm sorry, I'm a little hesitant today. My keyboard isn't working, nor is my mouse. So I keep, you know how you automatically go to your mouse and your keyboard? I think it's probably this attachment and it wasn't working. But here we are. So, hey, if you're on our Zoom, welcome. It is panelist only. So if you have anything that you'd like to ask of me or of Nancy, you can go ahead and put that in the chat. If you're on our Facebook Live, welcome. And same thing, hop in there and pop your questions in there. And so now I get to introduce you to my new friend, Nancy. Nancy and I met through the super connector, Stacy Shipman, Engage the Room. If you haven't checked out Engage the Room and Stacy's amazing podcast or gone to any of her networking events, I highly suggest that you do so because she just does it. Wouldn't you agree, Nancy? Like she just knows what to do. Yes. Always the best events. So a shout out to Stacy Shipman. So Nancy Medoff. Am I saying your last name correct?
You are, and thank you for asking. Most people don't. Yes.
All right, so here's what she wrote. She is a confidence ninja and expert on persuasion. She teaches brass tacks, high stakes persuasion techniques to ask for and get what you deserve. So this could mean more clients, a higher salary, faster promotions, or simply recognition for your ideas and your value. When I asked Nancy what her superpower is, she says she's here to change the social norms of how women behave in the workplace. I cannot wait to dive into this. I know we only have a few minutes, but man, I feel like we could talk about this for days. Tell me more, Nancy.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on the program. I have thoroughly enjoyed getting to know you better. And yes, Stacy is a super connector. Yeah, I mean, my mission in life is to universally raise the confidence level of women everywhere. I believe if we were to do that, the world would run smoother. There would be more medical breakthroughs. There would be happier children because women would have more balance in their life. There would be more of connecting people with what they need, with what people offer. I just think we would raise the whole world, and I think it can be done.
Okay, that sounds pretty lofty.
I know it does. I know it does. I know.
Tell me more. How are we going to do that?
So we're going to do that one person at a time. So I was in corporate America for many years, 25 years at least, I think a little more than that. And repeatedly, almost daily, I would see women behaving differently than men at work. And I started to organically just coach and talk to and research and learn about women not going for jobs unless they think they're 100% qualified, and women not raising their hand at a meeting, or if they do, starting with, I'm sorry, but, or you may have already thought of this. I've seen solopreneurs, mainly women in this case, who are afraid to ask for the business and afraid to convert the potential client into a customer. And I think that you can train yourself to be persuasive, and with persuasion comes confidence. And I think it's a skill that can be learned.
That sounds okay. So I love the way that you say that, and you give me like, yes, we can do this. But then there's the how.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how?
So there are 3 common persuasion techniques that that I train people on. So one is called the rule of 3. The other is to start with them. And then the third, which really, I'm sorry, there's just a loud banging in my background. And the third is what we call the so what. So rule of 3, start with them, and the so what. So right now I'll talk about the rule of 3 because that's pretty simple.
Okay.
So the rule of 3 is an adult's retention principle, which states that people remember things in 3s. And if there's one key to how to be more persuasive, it's to bucket whatever you're trying to talk about, sell, advocate for, bucket it into 3s. And if you look at advertising, this is very prevalent in advertising. Taste the rainbow, snap, crackle, pop, just do it with Nike. Most successful marketing and advertising campaigns contain 3 words or phrases. This goes back in history: Friends, Romans, Countrymen, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly, nursery rhymes, Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. It's always 3s. Mo, Larry, Curly. It's always 3s.
Wow.
And people remember things in 3s. So if you can frame your offering, or frame your position, or frame whatever it is that you're seeking to get into 3 bullets, you are guaranteed off the bat that people will remember it.
All right, now I'm trying to think of that. I'm going to do this as my afternoon goal.
There you go. Yeah.
So you gave us some marketing examples. How would solopreneurs do that? How would I do that?
So let's say you wanted to retain me as a client.
Yes.
If you were to say to me, Nancy, here are 3 things here are 3 benefits to working with me. Here are 3 outcomes that will happen for you if you work with me. Here are the 3 main pillars of what we will do. So the more I can remember and think about, okay, well, if I work with Susan, I'm going to put a strategy together for my email marketing. I'm going to get a higher click-through rate. And as a result, I'm going to probably get a 30% ROI for that email marketing. Sign me up. Done.
Well, thank you for writing my marketing for me
there
this
you
morning.
Go. You're welcome. You're welcome.
So what is some of the, okay, so we got a question on the Facebook group earlier that said, what if I feel like you've already answered this, but the question is, and so many people that I talk with feel this, I don't want to feel like I'm selly. I don't like to sell.
I love that. I saw that question, and I get really excited when people cringe when they hear sales, because I think that sales in general has gotten a really bad rap. You think about used car salesmen, you think about Fast Eddie selling appliances, or whatever you think about. So it's really about, what is your value, and how is your client going to be better as a result of hiring you? So if you can reframe a little bit and think about, I think it was Rachel that posted something in the Facebook group. So what I would say to Rachel in a one-on-one would be, okay, Rachel, why do people hire you? How are their lives better as a result of hiring you? What are some of the benefits to them working with you? So, and that's the second rule of persuasion, is to tie it to start with them. So when you think about, so let's go back to the example we used for your email marketing, Susan.
Okay.
If I'm going to increase my ROI, if I'm going to get a 30% ROI, if I'm going to increase my click-through rate, and if I'm going to get more clients, why wouldn't I pay you for that? I wouldn't expect not to pay you for that. So you and Rachel and me, everybody needs to get comfortable with, there's a value to what I'm offering. And you can discount that value. You can, offer something complimentary to get someone started. There's a way to give while also earning money doing what you do. The other piece of that is, and this happens to me all the time, I can help somebody very quickly put together their 2-line headline on LinkedIn. So in my world, LinkedIn is where everybody goes. It's a very, very, very common platform. So it's really important that your 2-line headline is impactful. It's 2 sentences that you get on LinkedIn. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and I went to look at her LinkedIn. She's a friend of mine that's probably about to be laid off. And I looked at her LinkedIn, and I'm like, yeah, she just spent a lot of money to update everything. She got a new resume. This person updated her LinkedIn, but her 2-line descriptor, her 2-line headline wasn't that great. It literally took me 15 minutes. I had a 5-minute conversation with her, dug a little bit deep onto, why do you love what you do, and who hires you, and why would they benefit, and how do you thrive at work? And within literally 15 minutes, I had a new 2-line headline for her. So easy for me to do. So easy for me to do. It comes naturally. It's easy. There's a lot of things I'm not great at, like email marketing. It would take me hours to do what you do. But for me, it's like this. And because it's so easy, and because I love it, and because I get my energy from it, I'm like, well, I can't charge people for that. It's just what I do. Like, it's easy for me. Why would I charge people for that?
Yeah.
But of course you should, because there's value in what I do. And I wasn't born good at it. I invested. I took classes. I got an MBA. I invest in myself financially and emotionally and with my time so that I can be good at it. And so that's why I'm okay with charging for it. But it's difficult. It's difficult.
I had 2 questions. I'm trying to figure out which one to ask you first. Well, I'll ask you the one that I was thinking first. You kind of answered it, but have you always noticed that about yourself, that you would look at somebody or listen to somebody talk and like get rid of all the fluff and get right to the core of it? Has that always been something that you've had, like growing up?
Yeah, it's very interesting that you say that. I grew up, I have 3 brothers and sisters. My house was chaos. I love them all. I was the youngest, so I had to be a little scrappy. So yes, it's always something I have been naturally good at and drawn to. It was not until a former boss of mine said that to me that I actually believed it. So that goes back to confidence. I didn't recognize it. I didn't see it. I certainly didn't monetize it. And this boss said, you have a very, very special and unique ability to assess a situation quickly, get right to the core, and then be able to articulate what nobody else can. And I was like, really? And it wasn't until she said it that I actually believed it.
I'm going to read this for you from Greg. You mentioned you became good at writing 2-line rate descriptions. I feel like I can speak it, but cannot always put it down on paper. How do you recommend helping this skill set?
Hi, Greg. I think I might know Greg. So what I would say, Greg, is write it all down. This is what I do. Write it all down, then whittle it down, walk away from it for a second or a day or 2, come back to it. So really nailing it will probably take a couple weeks, because you think it's great, and then you go back a day or 2 later and you're like, oh my God, that's awful. I sound like an idiot. So you really have to keep refining it and keep refining it and keep refining it. And I would also say bounce it by some people. Ask your friends, ask your wife, ask your husband, ask your colleagues, I don't know if I'd ask my boss, but ask whoever. And is this really who I want to be and how I want to show up? And I just want to add one thing to that. I was working with a client a few weeks ago, and we were working on this. We were working on her headline. It's interesting. And she came in one way and went out another way, and just in these 2 sentences. And I was confused, and I wasn't sure what she was trying to say. And we talked about it for a while, and I said, oh, I know what you're doing. You're taking your old brand and you're trying to apply it to your new brand. So you need to decide when you sit down and do this, or even for a solopreneur, when you want to really think about your positioning statement, not who have I been, but who do I want to be? Because you
Mm.
can shape your personal brand and you can shape the way people view you just by what you're saying about yourself and how you're saying it.
Well, that's interesting because first I was going to talk about how one of the exercises I know a lot of people have done is asked people, done kind of a survey of people that they know, what do you think my strengths are? And what do you think I get done? So that was where I was going with this, but you kind of took that to a different turn and said, no, that's who you were. And now you need to create who you're going to be and who you're going to serve.
So I'm so glad you brought that up. And what I'm about to say might be highly controversial. So I want to just preface this. There's a lot of value in asking other people what they think of you. And when you're building your personal brand, there's a lot of value in 360s, 180s, just asking around, or when you think about me, what do you think? I think there's value in that. I also think that's very dangerous because how you are perceived is not necessarily who you are. So I say, stop, just stop. How do you want to show up? And then everything goes into how you want to show up and who you want to be. I've had some rough years in my life where I wasn't proud of my brand and I wasn't proud of how I was showing up. If I had listened to everybody, I would have stayed in that circle. And I said, no, I know who I want to be and I know how I want to show up and I know the work I need to do to get there. And that's how I'm going to move forward. And that's how I'm going to position myself. And that made a big difference.
That's awesome. I have another comment from Greg who says, yes, you do know him. And he agrees. He says he went from an individual contributor role to a leader role in a business unit he had started from. He was very different when he started his career to now, and he had to sell his new brand.
100%. Yeah. Yeah.
I want to go back for a second to something that you said earlier, because I think that it applies to a lot of the people who are in my audience, my clients, and just in my Rise Above Noise audience. And that is, you would do it all day long for free. Why would anybody pay you? What I hear 80% of the time, because I work with heart-centered entrepreneurs, solo professionals. I work with yogis and healers and light workers and creatives and coaches, and they're so dedicated to making the world a better place by changing people's lives one person at a time. And so that's where they get their hitch in their marketing, is that they would do it all day long for free, but honestly, we need to make some money. And so I like the way that you're positioning it, and that you've talked about, listen, I've done all the work, and I feel like they've done the same thing, that it's okay. And that's a whole money mindset thing. I guess we're not getting into this, but the fact is, if you position yourself in power, knowing what you're about, knowing and being able to talk about your value, then it's not as difficult to say, here's what I do, here's what I charge.
Here's what I would say, because I've had a lot of conversations about this lately for myself, because the industry that I used to be in is in rough shape right now. So there's a lot of people coming to me asking me for help. Two things. One, I can't invest in myself and being a better trainer and a better coach and a better speaker if I don't have money coming in. So I take a little bit of every new project and I put it towards whatever. So if I want to work on my whatever skills, I wait until I have an engagement where I'm bringing in some new revenue, and then I siphon off a portion of that revenue so that I can get better. So the more I get in, the more I can reinvest in helping other people. So that's one way I look at it. And then just today I was thinking about this, and my intention is not for this to sound flip. Do you think Deepak is out there saying, sure, I'll come to your conference and you don't have to pay me?
Right.
Of course he's not.
Right.
So they're not mutually exclusive. You can help people and earn a living at the same time, and you should.
I love that. Okay. So I wish that we had an hour to talk, because I think there's so much here. I know that when people listen to this recording, or go back and watch the replay on the Rise Above Noise group, they're probably going to have a lot of, well, they'll have questions too, but honestly, you guys listening now or later, I bet that there's like this like you shook it up a little bit, right? You gave us so
Yeah.
much to think about. And I think that when you were giving the three words, what was it? Larry, Joe, Curly, whatever,
Mo,
Mo, the
Larry,
three.
Curly, the
Yeah,
three
yeah, yeah.
C's.
That was a bad example because next I was going to say you have empowerment action results right there on your
Right.
screen.
Exactly.
I am going to work on my 3 today. Hey, you guys, if you're listening, will you put down your ideas for me for my 3 words? You guys probably know me better. I would love to hear what you guys think, although I guess that goes against what Nancy just said, not to.
No, I'm not saying never. I'm
I
not
know.
saying that. I'm not saying that.
I know, but I do love the help. Nancy, this went by so quickly because it was such great stuff. Where can people find out more about you? And well, first of all, what kind of clients are you looking for, and who's a good person to work with you, and where can they find you?
It's a great question. I'm looking for anyone who wants to step into their strengths and ask for and get what they want at work. It's that simple. My website is called AthenaWise, all one word, .com. Athena was the goddess of wisdom, so we put the 2 together.
Nice.
Or you can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, and Medoff, but let's just go with AthenaWise.com, or I have a Facebook profile for my company.
Awesome. And of course on LinkedIn as well. I would
Yes,
imagine.
of course. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Little technical difficulties with my mouse right now. I'm going to put that information into the chat and into the show notes later on. Nancy, thank you so much for showing up for us this morning. It was great to see you in your bright yellow background and your colorful shirt. So good. We're going to have a colorful day today.
Yeah.
All right, my friend. Thank you
my pleasure.
so much. I'm going to shut this off.